Good afternoon, dear friends. You are on Ruslan Belov's channel. We continue to be with you in a daily format, analyzing the situation on the front lines. Today, negotiations between the United States and Ukraine are set to begin in Saudi Arabia. And one of the issues that will be discussed there is what territorial concessions Ukraine is willing to make in order to reach some kind of peace agreement. In general, I think there will be many statements and a lot of news today, which we will also be following. Well, we continue our work, analyzing the situation on the front lines. Before we begin, I would like to sincerely ask you to subscribe to the channel. Your subscription helps the channel grow. I thank everyone who has already subscribed. Let's open the map together. So friends, 3 days have passed since the start of the offensive operation in the Kursk region. The results we have so far are as follows. On March 8th, when the operation began, the Russian army regained control of 41 square kilometers. On March 9th, 87 square kilometers, and yesterday, 43 square kilometers. In total, if we add it up, over the 3 days, the Russian army has regained control of more than 170 square kilometers. Moreover, the offensive continues, as does the mass surrender of Ukrainian armed forces. Yesterday, for example, in the area of the village of Ivashkovskoye, which is here, first a group of 8 Ukrainian soldiers surrendered, followed by another 5 soldiers. Then, in the area of the village of Mirnoye, 20 soldiers laid down their weapons. After that, in the area of the hamlet of Agronom, 4 more soldiers were captured. In addition, footage has appeared online showing Ukrainian armed forces fleeing to the Sumy region. And they are fleeing, not just 1 or 2 people, but dozens at a time. Additionally, there was footage of Ukrainian soldiers running along the road and entering a building in the village of Gogolevka. This village is located here, just before the exit to the Sumy region. About 20 soldiers ran into the building and then a Russian rocket hit it. So why am I telling you all this? To give you a sense of the atmosphere, to make the situation clear. There has been no coordinated defense from the Ukrainian armed forces so far, even 3 days after the start of the offensive. There are certain pockets of resistance, yes. For example, in the village of Mirny. The fighting there lasted for a day. Moreover, at the very beginning of the fighting, an entire platoon of about 40 Ukrainian soldiers fled from there. Nevertheless, the remaining garrison of the Ukrainian armed forces resisted for a full day. And only by yesterday evening did they abandon their positions near the local airfield and the cottage settlement and flee to Sudzha. Thus, Mirny has returned home, and the position of the Ukrainian armed forces in the city of Sudzha has worsened even further. Well, you can see for yourself on the map. Mirny is literally adjacent to Sudzha. Its capture automatically means the start of fighting for the eastern part of the city. Because let me zoom in again. You see, there isn't even a clear boundary here. It's all merged, all one agglomeration. Therefore, the Ukrainian armed forces continue to flee to the Sumy region, realizing that they cannot build any serious defense here. Sudzha is already blocked from 3 sides. From the north, there is an industrial zone under Russian control, plus fighting is ongoing in the second Knyazye. From the east, we have just analyzed the situation, and from the south, fighting is ongoing in Zamosye. Moreover, if yesterday morning the Ukrainian armed forces still maintained control over the settlement of Agronom and the hamlet of Kolmakov, by lunchtime they had lost that control. The situation is unfolding no less dynamically north of Sudzha. There, a Ukrainian garrison of 120 soldiers has been encircled. Here, Russian troops continued their advance from Cherkaskoye Porechnoye to the southwest. After capturing the village of Pravda, they entered Ivashkovskoye, meaning they entered the village of Ivashkovskoye and the Ivashkovsky forest. This is the forest to the west of the village. As I told you at the beginning of the broadcast, it all ended here with the group surrender of Ukrainian soldiers. 13 Ukrainian soldiers surrendered. And I must note that this is only what was captured on camera. How many were ultimately taken prisoner, maybe the Ministry of Defense will announce the total number later. After gaining control of Ivashkovskoye, they advanced to the railway. This is the road. From there, they then struck the hamlet of Zazulevka. And the stronghold where the Ukrainian armed forces were holding their defense simply collapsed. As a result, this entire territory, although on the American map it is marked as a grey zone, it is not actually a grey zone. This is the Russian map, and it is more accurate in this case because all this space up to Kazachya Lochnya is an area of confident control by the Russian army. Because today there was footage with Apti Aladinov, he was just in Zazulevka. Everyone was walking calmly, not hiding. It's clear that this is an area of confident control. As for Kazachya Lochnya itself, for 2 days the Ukrainian armed forces held their defense here. Well, at least that's what Ukrainian military analysts wrote. To be honest, they were, let's say, being a bit deceptive. That is, you could of course call it holding the defense, but in fact they were simply blocked. Because Kubatkin and Zazulevka were already under Russian control, and although there were battles there, in any case, you couldn't move forward. Additionally, an advance was made into Bogdanovka from the north. This is here, you see, Bogdanovka. And to the south, fighting also took place in Vytoroye Knyazhye. Accordingly, Kazachya Lochnya was under fire from all sides. That's 1. 2. To move west, they needed to cross the river, since Kazachya Lochnya is surrounded by the Lochnya River, and the bridges here are destroyed. But even if they somehow managed to cross the river under fire, either by vehicle or on foot, they then enter completely open terrain, stretching for many kilometers. It would be one thing if there were, for example, a forest here, like in the Ivashkovskoye area, where the Ukrainian armed forces hid for an entire day before ultimately surrendering. Here, however, it's open terrain, which can be targeted from Lebedevka, Bogdanovka, and Vytoroye Knyazhye. In general, the Ukrainian armed forces have always had a tendency to get caught in mini cauldrons, and here they didn't change their habits. After 2 days of fighting, and just now, as I'm recording this segment, news has come in that part of the Ukrainian garrison in Kazachya Lochnya voluntarily laid down their weapons, while another part attempted to escape through the fields last night. How many of them survived, we'll find out later. In any case, let's note that this success, namely the capture of Kazachya Lochnya, is a huge step toward taking Sudzha, as you can now see on the map, that a wide front has been established to the north of the city, Sudzha. And we already discussed in the first part of the segment that Sudzha is surrounded on 3 sides, but now this blockade has become much more, let's say, solid. What else is happening in the Kursk region? Over these 3 days, the Ukrainian armed forces made only one attempt to counterattack. It was recorded here, in the south, from Guyevo, advancing toward the Kolosok recreation base. This base. According to reports, even from the Ukrainian side, they suffered 70 soldiers killed, and those who survived the attack retreated back to Guyevo. If we move a bit north from Guyevo, after cutting the second supply route, an offensive is underway toward Oleshnya. This is a village right on the border with the Sumy region. At the moment, Russian positions are only 3 kilometers away from the village. In general, the situation changes day by day. Sometimes it changes every hour. Because again, I sat down to record this segment, and just now, such important news has come in. I didn't actually expect it to happen so quickly. The Ukrainian armed forces surrendered Kazachya Lochnya, even though they tried to turn it into some kind of fortified area to delay the advance. But it seems no one cares anymore. No one wants to delay anything. I also just received information that Russian troops have already entered the territory of Sudzha, and photo confirmation of this has appeared online. And you know, this gives hope that the city of Sudzha will also fall very quickly. I also want to share details about Operation Pipe with you. Today we'll talk about an unusual and daring military operation carried out by Russian servicemen and volunteers in the Kursk region. This operation attracted attention due to its unconventional and bold nature. Over 800 Russian fighters, including servicemen and volunteers, managed to infiltrate the enemy's rear through an empty section of the Urengoy-Pomary-Uzhhorod gas pipeline. Yes, you heard that right, through a gas pipeline. How did this happen? Which units participated in this operation, and what implications does it have for the current situation in the region? Let's break it down in detail. The beginning of the operation. How it all happened. The operation began on Saturday, March 8, 2025. According to the press service of the Volunteer Assault Corps, it involved fighters from the Reconnaissance and Assault Brigade Veterani and the Assault Brigade Vostok, which are directly subordinate to the DSHK command. Additionally, units from the 30th Regiment of the 11th Airborne Brigade and the AIDA Group from the Akhmat Special Forces were involved in the operation. These were experienced and well-trained fighters, capable of operating in difficult conditions. The idea of using the gas pipeline to infiltrate the enemy's rear did not come by chance. The Urengoy-Pomary-Uzhhorod gas pipeline is a large-diameter mainline that passes through several regions, including the Kursk region. At a certain section, the pipeline was empty, making it an ideal route for covert movement. The fighters covered a distance of 11 to 12 kilometers through the underground gas pipeline, moving in complete darkness and with limited space. This required not only physical endurance, but also high psychological resilience, emerging to the surface and the start of combat operations. After the fighters completed their underground journey, they surfaced in the industrial zone of the city of Sudzha. This moment became pivotal in the operation, as the enemy did not expect an attack from this direction. Ukrainian forces were caught off guard, allowing the Russian fighters to quickly establish themselves and begin active operations. The press service of the DSHK, Volunteer Assault Corps, published unique footage showing the fighters moving inside the pipeline in full gear. These images demonstrate just how complex and risky this operation was. The darkness, confined space, and the need to carry all their equipment made the task extremely challenging. However, the fighters succeeded, which speaks to their high level of training and motivation. Development of events. Fighting in Sudzha and surroundings. After emerging to the surface, Russian forces began active combat operations. By Sunday, March 9th, they had managed to completely liberate the industrial zone in Sudzha and engage in fighting in the residential areas of the city. The enemy, suffering losses, began retreating toward the village of Zaulashenka, where the international automobile checkpoint Sudzha is located. According to the DSHK, the retreat of Ukrainian forces was chaotic, indicating that the Russian attack came as a complete surprise to them. To consolidate the success and continue the offensive, additional Russian units and reinforcements, including armored vehicles, were deployed. This allowed them not only to hold the captured positions, but also to continue advancing deeper into enemy-controlled territory. Reaction from the Ukrainian side. The General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine confirmed the fact that Russian troops had infiltrated through the gas pipeline. The Ukrainian command also reported that heavy fighting continues in the Kursk region. The most intense combat is taking place in the direction from Koronevo to Sudzha, as well as in the areas of Novo-Ivanovka, Malaya Lokhnya, and south of Sudzha. Ukrainian military officials acknowledge that the situation in the region remains tense, and Russian forces continue to exert pressure on their positions. This indicates that the operation has strategic significance and is enabling Russian troops to strengthen their foothold in the region. Results and significance of the operation. The pipeline infiltration operation became an example of unconventional military tactics. It demonstrated that even objects seemingly unsuitable for military operations, such as gas pipelines, can be used to achieve tactical and strategic objectives. The success of this operation was largely due to the thorough preparation, courage, and professionalism of the Russian fighters. For the Ukrainian army, this operation posed a serious challenge. The unexpected nature of the attack and the rapid advance of Russian forces created a complex operational situation that Ukrainian troops are struggling to manage with limited resources and time. Conclusion. In conclusion, the operation in Sudzha serves as a vivid example of how unconventional solutions and bold actions can alter the course of military operations. Russian forces were not only able to infiltrate the enemy's rear, but also consolidated their successes, liberating several settlements and inflicting significant damage on Ukrainian formations. Thank you for your attention. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new content.